A wound left open in the rain does not heal faster. It festers, it deepens, and yet this is what we do with the heart. We leave our emotional wounds exposed to every passing storm, every sharp memory, every unkind word that drifts through the mind like wind through an open door. We tell ourselves we are strong for enduring. We tell ourselves time will do the work. But time alone does not heal. Attention does. Presence does. Tenderness does. Healing an emotional wound is not about forgetting. It is not about pretending the pain never happened. It is about learning to hold the hurt the way you would hold a frightened bird, gently, without force, with the understanding that what is fragile requires care, not control. This is the first truth we must accept. The wound is real, the pain is valid, and the healing begins not when we deny it, but when we turn toward it with compassion. Take a slow breath. Notice where you are right now. Feel the weight of your body in this moment. This is where healing happens, not in the past where the wound was made, not in the future where you hope to be free, right here, right now, in the soft space between one breath and the next. There is an old teaching that says the arrow that strikes you causes pain, but the second arrow is the one you shoot at yourself. The first arrow is the event, the betrayal, the loss, the harsh word, the abandonment. These things happen. Life brings them, but the second arrow is your response. The way you blame yourself. The way you replay the moment over and over as if repetition could change the past. The way you carry shame like a stone in your pocket, heavy and familiar. This second arrow is where most of our suffering lives. Emotional wounds do not heal because we refuse to remove the second arrow. We keep shooting ourselves with judgment, with regret, with the belief that we should have known better, done better, been better, and so the wound stays fresh. It bleeds in quiet moments. It aches when we are alone. It whispers that we are broken beyond repair. But you are not broken. You are human. And being human means feeling deeply. It means being touched by life, and sometimes being cut by it. The wound does not make you weak. The wound makes you real. Let me tell you about a student who once came to the temple. She carried grief like a cloak, heavy, dark, wrapped so tightly around her that she could barely move. She had lost someone she loved. Years had passed, but the pain was still sharp, still fresh, still bleeding. She asked me, "When will this stop hurting?" And I asked her, "When will you allow yourself to feel it fully?" She looked at me with confusion. She said, "I feel it every day. It never leaves me." But feeling and allowing are not the same thing. She felt the pain, yes, but she also resisted it. She pushed against it. She tried to outrun it, outthink it, outdistract it. And every time she pushed, the wound grew deeper. Healing begins with permission. Permission to feel what you feel without adding the weight of judgment. Permission to be sad without calling it weakness. Permission to be angry without calling it failure. Permission to grieve without calling it self-pity. The emotion itself is not the problem. The resistance to the emotion is where we suffer most. Think of a child who falls and scrapes their knee. They cry, they show you the wound, they want it seen, they want it acknowledged. And then, once it is cleaned and bandaged, they go back to playing. They do not carry shame about the scrape. They do not replay the fall 1,000 times, wondering why they were not more careful. They simply feel the pain, receive the care, and move forward. Somewhere along the way, we forget how to do this. We learn to hide our wounds. We learn to say, "I'm fine," when we are bleeding inside. We learn that vulnerability is dangerous, that pain is something to be ashamed of. And so we tuck our wounds away in the dark corners of the heart where they cannot breathe, cannot heal, cannot close. But what is hidden does not disappear. It only grows more tender, more sensitive, more easily triggered. A word, a song, a smell. Suddenly you are back in that moment, feeling everything as if it just happened. This is not weakness. This is your heart trying to tell you something. It is trying to say, "I am still hurting. I still need care." So we must learn to turn toward the wound, not away from it. This is the core of healing. This is the practice. Not to analyze the wound, not to fix it, not to explain it away, but simply to be with it. to sit beside it the way you would sit beside a dear friend who is suffering, with presence, with patience, with love. Take another breath, let it be slow, let it be soft. Notice if there is tension in your body. Notice if your shoulders are tight, if your jaw is clenched, if your hands are gripping. This is the body holding the wound. This is where the pain lives, not just in the mind, but in the flesh, in the muscles, in the breath. Healing an emotional wound requires that we return to the body. We spend so much time in the head, replaying memories, constructing stories, trying to understand why. But understanding alone does not heal. The mind can know something is safe, but if the body still carries the fear, the knowing does not reach deep enough. We must bring awareness into the body. We must feel where the pain lives. And then, with great gentleness, we must breathe into it. This is not easy. I will not tell you it is easy. When you first turn toward a wound you have been avoiding, it may feel overwhelming. It may feel like too much. And if it does, that is okay. You do not have to do this all at once. Healing is not a race. It is a slow unfolding, a gradual softening, a return to yourself, one breath at a time. There is a practice I often share. It is simple, but it is powerful. When you feel the ache of an old wound rising, when the grief or the anger or the fear begins to surface, do not run from it. Do not distract yourself. Instead, place one hand on your heart, feel the warmth of your palm against your chest, and say to yourself, silently or aloud, I am here, I see you, I will not leave you. These words are not magic, but they are medicine. They remind the wounded part of you that it is not alone, that it is not abandoned, that you, in this moment, are choosing to stay, to be present, to offer care. This is what the heart needs most. Not answers, not solutions, not explanations, just presence, just the knowing that it is safe to feel. The student I mentioned earlier, the one carrying grief like a cloak, she began to practice this. At first, it felt strange to her. She said it felt like talking to herself, like pretending. But I told her, you are not pretending. You are practicing presence. You are learning to be the one who does not abandon yourself when the pain comes. She practiced every day, in the morning, when the grief was heaviest, at night, when the loneliness crept in, and slowly, something began to shift. Not because the pain disappeared, but because she stopped fighting it. She stopped trying to force it away. She stopped believing that feeling the pain meant something was wrong with her. And in that space of acceptance, something unexpected happened. The wound began to close. Not all at once, not completely, but gradually, like skin knitting itself back together, cell by cell, breath by breath. This is the paradox of healing. The wound begins to close when we stop trying so hard to close it. When we stop resisting the pain and simply allow it to be, it begins to move. It begins to shift. It begins to transform. But this does not mean we do nothing. It means we do the inner work. We practice presence. We practice self-compassion. We practice the art of holding ourselves with the same tenderness we would offer to someone we deeply love. In daily life, this looks like small acts of kindness toward yourself. When the wound aches, you do not punish yourself with harsh thoughts. You do not say, get over it, move on, you should be stronger by now. Instead, you speak to yourself the way you would speak to a dear friend, with gentleness, with understanding, with the recognition that healing takes time. It looks like allowing yourself to rest when you need to rest, to cry when you need to cry, to sit in silence when the world feels too loud. It looks like honoring your pace, not comparing your healing to anyone else's. Someone else may move through grief in 6 months. It may take you 3 years. Both are valid. Both are sacred. There is no timeline for the heart. It also looks like creating space for joy, even while the wound is still tender. This is important. Many people believe that healing means staying in the pain until it is gone. But this is not true. Healing also requires moments of lightness, moments of laughter, moments of beauty. These do not betray the wound. They nourish the part of you that is learning to live again. Think of a garden after a harsh winter. The ground is still cold. Some plants are damaged. Some did not survive. But the gardener does not only mourn what was lost, the gardener also plants new seeds, waters the soil, tends to what is still alive. This is not denial, this is wisdom. This is the understanding that life continues, and we must continue with it, even as we grieve what was. So, allow yourself to smile, even if the wound is still healing. Allow yourself to feel moments of peace, even if the pain is not completely gone. This is not betrayal, this is balance. This is the way the heart learns to hold both sorrow and joy at the same time, without one erasing the other. There is another layer to healing that we must explore. It is forgiveness. Not the kind of forgiveness that says what happened was okay. Not the kind that pretends the wound does not matter. But the kind of forgiveness that releases the grip of resentment, that lets go of the need for the other person to suffer as you have suffered. This is perhaps the hardest part. Because when someone wounds us, part of us wants them to pay. Part of us wants them to feel what we felt, to understand the depth of the hurt they caused. And when they do not, when they move on unbothered, the wound deepens. We carry not only the original pain, but also the weight of injustice. But here is the truth. Holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. It does not hurt them, it only hurts you. It keeps the wound fresh. It keeps you tethered to the past. It keeps you small, defined by what was done to you, rather than who you are becoming. Forgiveness is not for them, it is for you. It is the decision to stop carrying their actions in your heart like stones. It is the choice to release the story, not because the story was not real, but because continuing to live inside it no longer serves you. This does not mean you trust them again. It does not mean you allow them back into your life. Forgiveness and boundaries can exist together. You can forgive someone and still choose to keep them at a distance. You can release the resentment and still honor your need for safety. These are not contradictions. They are acts of wisdom. And sometimes, the person we most need to forgive is ourselves. We replay our choices. We wonder why we did not see the signs, why we stayed so long, why we trusted someone who proved untrustworthy. And we carry guilt, as if we were responsible for another person's cruelty. But you are not responsible for what others chose to do. You are only responsible for how you respond now. And the most healing response is self-compassion, to look at yourself with the same kindness you would offer to anyone who has been hurt. To say, you did the best you could with what you knew. You are learning, you are growing. You are not defined by this wound. Breathe into that. Let it settle into your bones. You did the best you could. Healing is not a straight line. There will be days when you feel light, when the wound seems distant, almost forgotten, and then something will happen, a memory, a trigger, a moment that brings it all rushing back, and you will feel as if you have not healed at all, as if all the work you have done was for nothing. But this is not true. Healing spirals, it moves in waves, and returning to the pain does not mean you have failed. It means you are human. It means the wound was deep, and deep wounds take time. Each time you return to it, you have more tools, more awareness, more compassion, and each time the pain is a little less sharp, a little less overwhelming, a little more manageable. So be patient with yourself, be gentle. Healing is not about arriving at a place where you never feel pain again. It is about arriving at a place where the pain no longer controls you, where you can feel it, honor it, and still choose peace. Where you can carry the scar without letting it define your entire story. There is beauty in scars. They are proof that you survived. Proof that you were brave enough to feel, to love, to be vulnerable. Proof that you did not close your heart, even when closing it would have been easier. The scar is not something to hide. It is something to honor. It is part of your story, but it is not the whole story. And as the wound heals, you will notice something remarkable. You will notice that the pain, which once felt so personal, so isolating, has connected you to the pain of others. You will see suffering in the world, and instead of turning away, you will turn toward it with understanding. You will meet someone who is hurting, and you will know deeply what they are feeling. And your presence, your compassion, your willingness to sit with them in their pain will be a kind of healing for both of you. This is the gift of the wound. It breaks you open, and in that opening, you discover a deeper capacity for love, for empathy, for connection. You discover that your suffering was not meaningless. It was an initiation, a doorway into a more compassionate way of being. So do not rush the healing, do not force it, do not judge yourself for how long it takes. Trust that your heart knows what it needs. Trust that the wound is teaching you something essential. Trust that on the other side of this pain, there is a version of you that is more whole, more awake, more alive than you have ever been. And in the meantime, be kind to yourself. Speak to yourself with love. Hold yourself with tenderness. Rest when you need to rest. Cry when you need to cry. And remember always that healing is not about becoming someone new. It is about returning to who you truly are, beneath the wound, beneath the pain, beneath the story. It is about coming home to yourself. Take one more deep breath. Let it fill your lungs. Let it soften your shoulders. Let it remind you that you are here, you are alive, you are healing, and that is enough. The wound does not have to be gone for you to be whole. You can be both healing and whole at the same time. You can carry the scar and still bloom. You can remember the pain and still choose peace. This is the truth. This is the path. This is the way. And so, as you go forward from this moment, carry this with you. The wound is not your enemy. It is your teacher. The pain is not your punishment. It is your initiation. And the healing, the slow, tender, sacred work of healing, is not a destination. It is a practice, a return, a remembering. You are not broken. You are breaking open, and in that opening there is light. Today, may you hold your heart with the tenderness it deserves.